Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg. Mahalo for tuning in to Island Focus. We're here in Studio 1122 at Ōlelo Community Media to converse with leaders in our community about how their organizations are maintaining the fundamental American right to the freedom of speech. Thank you for joining us on Island Focus. So we're in front of the Ōlelo building, but it's more than a building.
It is more than a building. We are a public access station, and we serve the island of Oʻahu, both all of the residents, the government, the educational institutions, as well as the public. We give the opportunity to our community to come in and share their videos and tell their story. We empower our community voices. And we also provide training opportunities. So once they come in and get trained, we teach them how to produce, how to video, and how to edit. And once they're done with that, then they get to use our facilities and our equipment for no charge.
Well, how exciting that they learn to be part of their own process.
Yes, it really is. And at Olelo, we just thrive on free speech, and we give the opportunity to everyone to use this platform that we have here to exercise their free speech rights.
Well, and one of the things that I appreciate is that the youth are involved as well,
yes,
and invited to be part of speaking out.
We enjoy working with the youth, and we love watching them thrive and just understanding why free speech is so important.
So with all of the different platforms and applications and everything that you have in terms of distribution, the world can hear the voices of Hawaii.
Yes, the world can definitely hear our voices, and that we want to ensure that they know how important their voices are and that free speech is welcomed here at Olelo.
And for you, the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part of my job is to work with everyone in our community, to inspire them to just tell their stories so that people know what's going on.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time, Roger, to be with us. I know you're a busy man, and especially because in celebration of free speech, that is what Olelo is about.
I think free speech sometimes has become almost like a cliche to some people. They've forgotten what it really is about. And we stand for free speech. We really are, I would say, the last remaining vestige of place where you can get heard and you don't have to worry about being censored or somehow not shown. With all that's going on, I think people need to remember that our society and this democracy we have really functions only when we can hear each other. Part of what we do too that people forget somehow is that we bring people here and they can make their voices heard. But the other part of what we do is we enable government to be heard about, if you will. I'm very passionate about the fact that we help different hearings, whether it's city and county or state, that a lot of the information coming out is coming out through our channels and through our platforms. So that if you can't be down at a hearing in the middle of your workday, you can still hear what happened there.
And one of the assets of Olelo is that it is community-based, and so when you see faces that you know on television, whether you like them or not, there's something to be heard.
Yes.
It's really important for Olelo, too, to reach out to organizations.
What I've found more and more, especially during this pandemic, has made it even more evident, and now we have a lot of federal programs coming down trying to help various members of our entire communities. And so I'm trying to make sure that we partner and help any organization, nonprofit, or whatever that's trying to help our community, help them have the impact they need to make. Any nonprofit can come in and do a PSA at no cost. And in today's world, that's important, because if we can do a quality PSA that helps an organization like that, that's how we can help them make an impact, so that we're just the expert conduit for that.
Well, and I appreciate you clarifying that, especially here at Olelo, it's not just about individual voice, although that is what free speech is about, but organizations represent individuals.
Well, I would suggest that, yes, free speech is about individuals. We normally think of it that way. But you also think about when people do get together after some common cause, their voice is now a united voice, that voice needs to be heard as well. You know, and the fact that they're getting together to do something and to explain how they're having an impact in their community, I certainly think that that is very important for us too, not just an individual's voice.
What do you find are the biggest challenges?
Gosh, there's so many places to start with that. I think we could start about how I think there's a lot of people who aren't listening to each other right now, and so we don't touch the content. But I'm always encouraging people when we're one-on-one and talking about how do you get your opinion across. I say, well, make sure that you listen to others' opinions as well. I'm going to tell a story that troubles me because I have teenage daughters. And right now, if they start reading an article on any given topic, and they Google it or what have you, and they read that article, when they finish that article, there's going to be 3 more articles on the sidebar. And more I'm finding, a little cynically maybe, that those articles are going down the same path of that article. And so one of the things I encourage my girls to do all the time is I said, if you get to having an opinion on something, make sure you listen to someone who is opposed to that view. Because maybe you're going to learn something that, not to say one's right or wrong, but it'll help better shape your opinion because you'll be better informed by those who have another opinion.
And that's what Ōlelo enables the community and individuals to do.
And that's why we are here, for sure. That is what we do, is that I want to make sure my daughters have access to those other voices. You know, sorry, that's the personal side of this. But it makes it very real for me every day, is that if there's a community or individuals that have a strong opinion or any opinion about something, they should be able to contribute to our decision-making, our policy-making, and just our opinion of what's happening today.
And as a new CEO, your greatest reward, having taken this opportunity?
As much as we see the challenges of COVID and where our world is today, and just so many things that we could look at a negative perspective, I think that kind of turmoil really creates a huge opportunity for us to work together better. You know, people are better able to change when they know they have to. If things seem okay on the status quo, it's harder to get people to get to a better place because it's still change. But when we're in a place like now, and just even some of the laws that we've had changed in this last year to enable access to government hearings and things that used to be harder to get to just because we had some, what I would suggest are some older, based on older technologies. But now we have the ability for more people to participate, and thankfully, we're going to keep going that way so that, I like to say, access is our middle name. That's what we are here for.
So as we wrap up our conversation today, your parting message to the audience from that launching point of access.
Go onto our website, look at what we have available in terms of services, but more importantly, we have content. Look and see what people are doing on our channels, but also when something's broadcast on our channels, we're also putting it out on our YouTube, on our Facebook, and Twitch, and other things I don't even know the names of right now. We're really good at distribution. So look at our content and see how much of our voices are out there, and think about, is there stuff that you wish you were hearing that you aren't? And come to us, because we'll help make that happen.
And having participated with Ōlelo over the many, many years, I'll say personally to come and be trained.
Yes.
Come and learn how the inside works, and be part of the solution.
It's not just about how to run the cameras, by the way. We do help in all aspects of getting your voice out there. We have help people with narrative. How do you say what you need to say? You know, there's a whole combination of skills and things that we help people to get there. And if they have it already, we help sharpen it up.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and go Ōlelo.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today, too.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Roger McKeague, who is the President and CEO of Ōlelo Community Media. I'm always so impressed when I learn more about the services of Ōlelo.
So yeah, we like to engage with the community as much as possible. We offer all these easy access services to Kapuna, to Keiki, and everyone in between. But I really want to emphasize our youth programs, because those are super awesome. We offer Youth Capital Commentary, where we invite students from all over the state to the state capitol on opening day, where they can interview all of their lawmakers in front of the camera, and it's so great.
It must be really exciting to hear young people actually tell adults what they think.
Yes, and speaking of that, our Youth Exchange Student Video Competition, which is the largest in the state, does just that. It invites students to create video content, submit it to air on our channels, and as part of the video contest, covering topics like bullying, environmental, health.
Peace, creating
Yes.
peace. My Rotary Club of Honolulu has been your sponsor for 17 years.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate all of the support we've been getting for Youth Exchange throughout all of these years.
So you have these youth programs, and there's more that you offer as well.
Yes, we also cater to our government sector. We offer a program called Vote, which is every election year, we invite candidates running for office to come to our studio to record a short message to their constituents, to their voters, and basically kind of level the playing field a bit.
Well, and in as much as this program is dedicated to free speech, the whole notion of voting in a representative democracy is about free speech.
Absolutely, and coincidentally, we are celebrating National Free Speech this week. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for sharing. We so appreciate seeing you in person and enjoying time with you, particularly right now, you know, when freedom of speech is a looming question. How does HPR regard that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mission of providing factual information to our audience and doing it in a way that allows us to spend a little bit more time on a subject. We don't do sound bites. We don't just, shout things out over the radio. We have the ability to go into a topic freely and take time to discuss it. And it's an important role that we have. Government needs to be managed and controlled by the free press. And it is the free press that holds the government accountable. And it's for an important part of our mission as journalists and as a public radio station, especially when we're so accountable to our community, right? Because we don't get any state money. We get very little federal money. So they don't get to tell us what to do. 95% of our funding comes directly from the community here in Hawaii. So we're accountable right to our community.
One of the things that I love about HPR is that there are stories. You do take the time, and it is a relationship.
Yeah, and we're uniquely local too, right? So community is part of our mission statement, it's part of our vision statement. Connecting the community is an important part of what we do. 30% of our schedule is locally hosted or produced. So the conversation that airs Monday through Friday with Catherine Cruz is a deep, deep dive into local issues. You get to hear voices, not just from Honolulu, but from all of the neighbor islands talking about things that are important to our community. Our reporter, Sku'uwehi Hiririshi, a native Hawaiian speaker, will go and do interviews in Hawaiian and over-translate them on the radio. We have a local produced Hawaiian music program, Kanekapila Sunday. So those types of things connect us to our community, which is uniquely different from other communities on the mainland. And for us, that's a very important role.
And it gives freedom of expression.
Yeah, absolutely. When people call into our talk program, there's no censorship. It's live. So people get to really engage in the way they want to. And that is also a very important aspect of free speech. We don't want to regulate what people have to say, but if someone goes way off kilter, and it goes beyond the norms of our community or the guidelines of the FCC, we might put a stop to that. But that doesn't mean that we're violating their freedom of speech, because they can go and have that conversation somewhere else.
What are the boundaries?
Yeah, it's very, the boundaries have really shifted over the last couple of years, right? And what's happened is with the increase of cable talk programs, opinion, commentary programs, we have seen an escalation of issues that are dominated by the right and the left. And so a trick that I have, that I share with friends who kind of live in one of the bubbles, whether it's on the right or the left, is when news breaks, and go to the extreme right channel and see how they're presenting the news on their website. Let's put Fox in that bucket. And then go to the extreme left, like MSNBC, and see how they're covering the topic. And if they are two polar opposites of each other, something is not right. So then you go to a source that you can really trust. And those sources are like AP News, Reuters, BBC, and National Public Radio. And I think once you're able to do that and see the wide range of how a topic is covered, that you're able then to see, okay, that's not right. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. And typically in the middle is the right place to be.
So this strategy you're talking about requires, however, someone actually wanting to learn.
Right. And the problem, the problem is now a lot of people live in a news bubble. So they're getting the news inside of a bubble from friends and sources that don't contradict how they feel. And so our citizens have to get uncomfortable and get out of that bubble. They have to want to do it, right? If they don't want to do it, they're going to be in that bubble forever, and that's the only source that they're going to have. But they have to take the initiative to say, let me peek out of the bubble for just one moment, see how the other community population is covering the story. And if they do that, maybe they'll get a sense that their reality in that bubble is not reality at all, that there's something else happening outside of that bubble.
Well, and that's an interesting perspective because people usually do not want suffering. They
Right.
will avoid suffering, even if it means that they're not that happy,
Right.
as opposed to change, which is why HPR is so delightful.
Right.
Because you have music and stories
Exactly,
in addition
right.
to the facts.
Right. So we have one stream that's all classical music, and during the election season and COVID, where people were just up to here with the news, they had an oasis to go to on
Yes.
HPR2, knowing they could always come back to HPR1, which is our all news station. But it is an important role, and if we weren't doing our job correctly, we would not be raising the money that we're able to raise here in this community, right? Because our measurement is, if we're doing our job well, not only do we have a lot of listeners, we have the third most listened to radio station in the state of Hawaii, but people are giving us freely their money. We don't know who they are. We don't have a turnstile where people walk in and say, here's the money. Voluntarily, they listen to the radio and they contribute. And they do it because they value the work that we do. And it's important work.
So along those lines, what's a parting message for the audience?
I think the parting message is freedom of speech is the cornerstone of our society. Freedom of the press is a cornerstone of our society, but it's not a one-way street. Our community, our citizens have to do their part too to get a better understanding of what is accurate and what's factual, and step out of their bubble to learn more.
Well, thank you very much for stepping out of your bubble today and
Absolutely.
coming into our bubble. We appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
How enjoyable to converse with Jose Fajardo, President and General Manager of HPR. So this is where the magic happens. The processing, the distribution. It must be really exciting for you in your role.
Yes, Olelo accepts and processes over 5,000 hours of original content, mainly submitted by Hawaii residents and other groups that are on Hawaii that covers events that are important to them.
And all original.
Yes, exactly.
And so when we look at something, it's not just on television or on the computer.
Correct. Not only do we process it for our 4 on-air channels, but we also process it for live streaming 24/7 on our website, which is also accessible on our mobile app, which you can also pull older videos as well.
So when we're talking about free speech, there is an enormous amount of freedom because the videos get shown around the world too.
Yes, it does. We also live stream lives on Facebook Live, also YouTube, and recently we've been experimenting with Twitch in order to reach our younger audience.
Well, I'm very proud to be part of Olelo, and I'm sure you are too. Thank
I am.
you.
Thank you.
It's always such a joy and a pleasure to see you, Ron. Thank you.
Lyla, always a pleasure to see you, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, and coming from the voice of public broadcasting, right, PBS Hawaiʻi, share with us what's new and how you fit into the free speech conversation.
You know, it's a fundamental right. I believe that from day one, and not just being an American, but just being a human. And I learned that early in my career as a broadcast journalist, the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and, you know, there's no compromising that. I mean, everything that I stood for as a journalist was done with integrity, but also understanding the responsibility that came with freedom of speech, you know, and freedom of press. And I still feel that way. And I preach it to my children, who are now adults, and I preach it to not preach it, but I share that message with our team at PBS Hawaiʻi as well. We provide access, but we also provide that vehicle of uncensored messages.
So share a little bit more about some of the initiatives and programs that PBS offers that exemplifies that.
Well, for us, it starts early for our programming, and it's really something that developed 10 years ago. We're starting our 11th year of Hiki no.
Wow.
And we're developing tomorrow's storytellers, but I say it's beyond that. Storytelling is one aspect of being able to communicate, but really we're developing tomorrow's leaders. And part of that conversation is providing our students the opportunity to say whatever they need to say. During the pandemic, it became student reflections. They literally turned the cameras on themselves. And it organically became this healing element of storytelling that some of these students really got raw, you know, and shared deep challenges that they were enduring. And some of them would have been taboo 10 years ago.
And with the youth voices as leading the examples, how else is PBS helping the audience, I guess, understand how important that fundamental right is?
The reality is that is, like I said, our responsibility, our kuleana, to make sure that we're providing, again, the opportunity for voice, and oftentimes opportunity for the voiceless. And not only that vehicle, but also the access to see that. So whether it be through linear or broadcast television, or as we all becoming very familiar with the digital space, we need to understand that people consume their content very differently these days. My children don't watch television at all, you know, but they will get their content elsewhere. So sometimes we have to get out of our box or silo or thinking that this is the avenue, this is the path, and really meet them in their space. Again, freedom of speech, freedom of the press has to evolve with community and technology, and we're doing that right now at PBS for sure.
You know, you mentioned the word leadership a little while ago. How do we inculcate, I guess, the concepts of free speech within leadership and prepare people for that?
What you're speaking of is, I think, an opportunity for leadership across every industry, even our industry. Get out of our silos, you know, collaborate and make a difference in community, whatever you're doing, whether it be the fight against hunger, public access to communication, you know, truthfully, it's like kako. It's we're all in this together. You know, that's not a cliche. That should be coming from your heart.
Yes, and so that also implies trust, alleviating the fears of competition, the fears that I won't look as good as you if I speak the truth.
Yeah.
How would you address that coming from PBS?
You know, what you speak of is, again, part of my life, you know, and not being afraid to tell the story or share the truth. When I was a journalist, there were so many times that I was literally fighting not to be even censored on our station. Fear of losing advertising. Oh my gosh, that's a sponsor. We can't do that story. Then I'm in the wrong business. And I went to war sometimes with management and even threatening walking out on the job. Not that I was all that, but understanding that was my kuleana, that was my role. And continued now in PBS Hawaiʻi the same way. You know, not being afraid to speak up and not being afraid of retaliation. And that's freedom of speech.
So parting words to the audience in terms of how one might develop that self-confidence to speak truth, universal truth.
It all starts with trust, like you said. Trust not only in your message, and you know, freedom of speech can only go so far. I mean, if
There are boundaries.
If you're perpetuating wrong statements or untruths, and that's not what I'm speaking. I was speaking about trusting the message that you have is true, but also trusting the community that's receiving it and understanding that relationship and how vital that is and how quickly you can deteriorate and really taint that in one wrong message.
And coming from that heart of aloha that you speak of, for the greater good of your family, the community, the islands.
Yeah, it's important. It's who we are, and it's always who we've been and who we need to be moving forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. As always, it's a pleasure and inspiring to hear you.
Thank you, Len.
Thank you. You've just had the pleasure of getting to know Ron Mizutani, the president and CEO of PBS Hawaiʻi. What a vibrant, colorful room this is. This is the training room.
Yes, it's the training room, and people in the community come to this room to learn about video production, Lyla. And what's really great about it is that when they learn video production, they not only get to create their own videos, but we mentor them on other productions that we do here for the community. So for example, some of our services cover creating public service announcements for nonprofit organizations. We also cover community events, meetings, conferences. All of those events are produced by Ōlelo, but we also have trainees that come through here to help us get the community's messages out there.
So when we speak of voice in the various different formats, it really is the essential part of Ōlelo.
Yes, it is. And what's really hard about production is that it's a lot of work. But when you have more people coming together to do it, then it just becomes more fun. We do have things called signature programs, shows that Olelo produces, such as Mele'a'e and Island Focus, and so many other really cool programs that show off the different voices that are in the community that need to kind of have some assistance to come together and be shared out in a format that people like to watch.
Well, and what I appreciate about the vibrancy of this room is it really speaks of the freedom that Olelo offers its clients and also in the production services.
Yeah, when you look at these walls and you see all these colored blocks, in actuality, the 808 Urban group that painted these walls were talking about the representation of all of these colors being the representation of the variety of voices that are out in our community. And what's so awesome about Olelo is that we get a chance to help community members share that with their neighbors so that we can kind of have a window into everybody's world and become better neighbors for it.
And enable the community to be more vibrant.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today on Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. On behalf of the Island Focus crew and the entire team at Ōlelo Community Media, aloha and malamapono. Be kind to one another and let us work together for a more peaceful, just, and civil society. See you soon.